Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. So again, we're all on natural at the end of my day. The last video was at the very beginning. So hot and sweaty, and been out hiking and had a great time. And something came to mind, another download. They're coming in fast, so I want to put them out as fast as they come. So what came to me was to talk about the hierarchy of horses and mare leadership or female leadership, and how that folds into the herd needs, as well as the stallion or the male being rolled in as leadership quality as well. If you observe horses in the wild, and it's somewhat in the domesticated herds, you'll see it still form up. However, it can be quite twisty and weird in the domesticated herds because of the adaptations that horses have had to make, either to be where they are or to be a part of where they are most easily. But in the wild, feral horse community, you see that the lead mare, or the boss mare, I like to call her the lead mare because boss just sounds, like something I don't want to have in my world. The lead mare is generally in charge of the movement and direction of the entire herd. And she's generally an older, wise, crone type that's been around for a minute. She has experience, she has wisdom, she has knowledge, she has a huge heart, and she also has the discipline to be able to say, yeah, no, and squish some stuff before it starts. She's basically in search of keeping safety at the top of her list of priorities, as well as food and water. And grazing, horses need to graze constantly to keep their bellies full. They need to keep moving. And so the lead mare is going to be responsible for being more situationally aware. All horses are very sensitive and very situationally aware. They can see almost 360 around them, and so they're used to being prey animal, and yet they can relax whenever they know and understand that the lead mare, the mama in charge of this group, has enough experience to kind of keep an eye on things, graze, and if she gets distracted and gets pulled away from grazing to wonder what's going on, she'll catch that, very early, very quick, and the rest of the herd can kind of just hang out, until she makes a decision about it. And then when she starts to move out or move on or starts hurting the actual those in her care, then they can pretty much rely on her, trust her guidance and her wisdom to take care of them for real, and not be all anxiety ridden. And so the stallion, which is your unfixed dude, your uncastrated male, is going to be the one that's primarily in charge of protection and security, and they're keeping, everything, predators away, because again, they're prey animal. They're used to being at the bottom of the food chain, and they think everything is above them in the food chain. And so the collaboration of the male horse and the female horse, the stallion and the mare, it's a collaborative effort where they give information, to one another. And if the stallion does in fact see something that is above, and beyond what the mare is seeing, he will dominate, that situation, very situationally, contextually driven, that they will override and just move the herd, independently and differently. But that's really based in the needs are more than you can see, mama. I got to move this out. Otherwise, it's a balance and an exchange, and they both know their roles. Each role is vitally important to the safety and the concerns and the well-being of every member of their herd. They don't leave anybody behind, they protect their young, and they protect to the weakest link. They are looking for the needs to be met of the weakest link. They're full, they're elders, they're geriatric crowd, and their injured crowd, generally speaking. So that is a collaboration that happens between the stallion understanding that she's not more important because that's her role, and she understands that she's not more important because his role, is just protection. If you don't have protection, if you don't have that very strong, stallion, bigger, generally speaking, they're bigger, they're stronger, and they're the most buff of the crowd, that if you don't have that protection from something that can come and, take down a couple members of the herd, like a wolf, coyote, something like that, if you don't have that, is there any real need for the mare to be there moving the food source or moving to a water source? If we don't have all the members, does it really matter? Because they're very social creatures, and they love each other. They have deep bonds, huge hearts, and they're very connected in a very real and emotional way. And so they both understand the collaboration of how they need to play. And the way that the horses underneath them learn that is by watching that, observing that, and understanding that Mama didn't put us in danger. She didn't ask us to move and, find that we were left to our own devices and we were just taken down, or, where we were standing by the water. She was sitting back waiting for the crocodile to come and get us. They don't do any of that stuff. They don't sacrifice their own. They're very communally driven, and they understand the need to protect all of the members of their family. And I don't mean blood lineage, I mean herd. That's very much their drive. So it's based on identifying needs and collaboration, as I've said. And, excuse me, it is also based in understanding that mayors are generally older. The lead mayor is generally older and has more experience and wisdom. And she also can get a little feisty if she needs to. I've worked with horses that, the lead mayor was just kind of, whatever. And she would let her lieutenant, or whatever you'd call it, the ranks below in the hierarchy only. And their hierarchy is really more lateral rather than hierarchical, and I'm always this and you'll always refer to me as this. They really share responsibilities as they are appropriate to do so. And I've watched lead mayors who would just not be bothered with the trifling behavior of the youngsters or those that were integrating someone new into the herd. Go ahead and take care of that and allow the grooming lead mayor, the one that's coming up through the ranks, and go take care of that. I can see, I'm watching, and I understand, and I know I'm situationally aware, and I got this. However, go take care of that. I expect you to. I'm not even going to really look up and make eye contact with you, because I want you to understand that you're being led into this position, or you already are in that position, and we are contextually understanding that in this situation you're going to have to take over lead, because that's what you do. That's where you have expertise, is to go and take care of that little tussle that's happening between those two boys, or the girls that are having a mean girl club meeting or something. Go ahead and take care of that. It doesn't mean that they have a lesser role, they're not as important, these smaller lead mayor moments. There has to be some sort of leadership, and there has to be some sort of an understanding. And so generally there is some sort of a leadership of some kind that's established, whether it be the stallion or the mare. Both can happen naturally, and in domestication, in feral land and in domestication, it can go either way. And so it isn't about establishing dominance. Theirs is more about, I want you to understand that you have the ability to take care of this, and then take care of that. Even though I have, protection and custody of the entire herd, so to speak, I expect that right now you're going to identify that's your spot, and you do that, and they will, from a situational basis, they'll make the decision, or it'll form up naturally that that's the one who takes care of that, with me, another mare, for instance. So the herds that I've watched, there was an elder mare that she was really getting tired of her job. She'd been at her job for a long time. It was a therapeutic farm that she was at, and she'd been there a very long time doing her work, and she was even getting a little tired of doing that. I could just sense and see that. And yet she wasn't the kind of mare that was going to drop her responsibility or not do it. She was just in pain. She was arthritic. She was having some problems, and she was really, needing others in the herd to step up. And I watched a beautiful relationship develop with a younger mare below her by, probably 10 years difference. However, that one was being groomed into that, and it would seem like the lead mare was just not doing her job, that why isn't she taking care of that? And she would often just kind of wait, and pretend like she didn't see here. I know nothing. We're in a corral. We're fine. We're not, we're not unprotected here. This is a very domesticated environment. So, I'm going to just, leave that alone and pretend like I don't see anything. And it naturally promoted the next natural progressive leader to show up, to build her trust and her confidence both in the lead mare and in the herd by showing and demonstrating, I know what I need to do here, because this one isn't doing it, then someone needs to step up. And it was really beautiful to watch, because the elder would, the one would go and she would take care of something, or she would cast a glance of, not that. and the elder would raise her head when it was completed. It was almost like a dance, that you could applaud at the end of it, that the elder would look across, raise her head and kind of give that nod of approval, like, yes, thank you, I wasn't ignoring it. You knew I wasn't ignoring it, and that's exactly what I was asking you to do, is take care of that. And the herd then knows that it's reinforced again and again through this non-dominance, that the way we do this is that we do this through cooperation and collaboration, and horses are more likely to move along with the program whenever they can trust that they have a choice in the program. They do not respond well, much like humans, they do not respond well when dominance is their key way of being motivated or moved. They don't like that. I don't really know any creature that does. However, horses is all I'm talking about, and the translation of how humans don't like that either. It's just that horses don't have the ego the same way that humans do, and so they can take that collaboration and that movement through by understanding and knowing and trusting, and by choice saying, why wouldn't I, move when the lead mare tells me to? Why wouldn't I, just suddenly start moving feet? And, I didn't always understand what was happening whenever I would watch the herd. I didn't know what the lead mare heard, or the next one down, what she was hearing, or what was going on, or why they would suddenly, spook and move, rapidly. However, I could trust and know, based on the observation of watching them the rest of the time, that there's a reason. My cat is really being obnoxious. She's trying to be lead mare in my world. She's trying to be boss cat. That there's a reason why that's happening, and there is no randomness in it. The lead mare does not toy with or taunt her herd members. She doesn't play with them, and she isn't going, ha, made you go to the water. There's no weird psychopathy in horses or in horse hierarchy that they play with one another or do that or dominate in that weird, kind of sadistic way. However, they would, in fact, if somebody was having trouble, did you misunderstand what I asked you to do? The horses, the lead mares will actually go and do, a little bit of a herd hit, is what I call that, a herd hit, which is also a hard hit of, I love you and I'm going to have to smack you now to get moving. I said, get going, and they'll kind of, thump them or bump them or nip them a bit or something to say, excuse me, junior varsity, did you understand what I said? I said move. And it actually establishes the hierarchy in a kinder way, even though it's, a little nip or something. It's not all out aggression. I'm not talking about stallions battling for the girl. I'm talking about, the lead mare saying, hey, I asked you to move, and it's critical you understand that when I ask you to move, I mean move, and do that for our safety, and it's time to move for the food. And we're operating at the need level for the weakest member of our herd. We're meeting the needs of our foals. We're meeting the need of our elder or injured, and it doesn't matter if you understand it. I said go. And because she isn't gratuitously asking for them to do that, there is no sadistic nature in that, then they can trust her. And when they need a reinforcement of that, she's happy to, go, oh, please, do you not understand who I am? There is no argument. It is simply, the horses I've observed, the farm that I was watching most recently, the older mare would just walk up like, no, and she would kind of thump or bump, and snip, bite, nip, whatever, excuse me, a bit to say, did you hear me? It did not happen very often. Generally, it was when there was a new horse being integrated and heard that, oh yeah, we do things differently from wherever you came from. Apparently, I'm the one. And again, it's not from ego, it's not from dominance, just that you need to understand, when I tell you to move out, I mean move out without question. You need to just follow orders, and the rest of the time you're on your leisure time, excuse me, grazing and having a great time, and thinking whatever you want to think, doing whatever you want to do, and having your grand life. However, to be a part of this herd, we have an established hierarchy that when it's engaged, whether it's me or it's the next one in line, or you have to take over that position all of a sudden because a lion has come and taken out 3 of us, then assume the position. My apologies, my cat is vomiting as we speak. Hopefully you can't hear that. Perfect time for that. This is a real purge period. And chronologically, however, it's still disgusting if you can hear that. My apology. That lead Herd leadership is based in being able to understand that you are well taken care of, you're protected, and you're loved. And I'll herd hit you, heart from my heart. That's truly I love you, Junior, and I'm going to have to smack you a little bit now or bring you into line a little bit more severely to get your attention. And attention getter, I love you enough to tell you that. However, I'm not going to hard hit or head hit out of some ego or some BS in me that how dare you challenge my authority. 1444, it is absolutely rooted exclusively in the better movement for the entire herd that meets the needs of everyone. That elder, she's used to being able to multitask and see, the stallion as well, be able to see the full operational field in front of them. They can see there's a danger out there that maybe, Junior, that's only a year or two old, maybe Junior isn't that alert yet, and he relies on those elders to tell him. However, he's feeling a little bit sporty about it because he doesn't fully understand. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the reason is that someone would be stepping out of line. They're not allowed to step out of line and stay out of line. That just doesn't happen. In my experience, that is not what's happened that I've observed, and it's not what's natural to feral community of horses or domesticated. So the choice to lead and the choice to follow, the beauty of matriarchal leadership amongst horses is that when the stallion needs to take over and do his thing, she allows that to happen, and she doesn't have butthurt. She doesn't get into any, feminist movement about it. She doesn't gather up the girls and, start plotting something evil against the stallion. And the stallion is now thinking, what kind of a dumb broad is this that I have to come and tell her what to do? What, don't you see this? No, why would we get into this? Because we're working collaboratively. We're working together for the betterment of everybody in this herd. And so remembering that a herd hit or a heart hit is based in, I understand, and I really, really just need you to be remembering what this really works like is very different than the hard hit or the head hit that comes from ego and how dare you challenge me or how dare you be so stupid as to make a problem for me. There's nothing personalized about it, absolutely nothing. They have personalities, of course. They can be spicy and they can be, just real jerky and unkind in their ways. When they are in domestication and they are, abused, etc., they act out just as much as any other species does. However, in feral communities, you'll see the best needs of the community may be, a group of stallions, a group of mares, and there's, no mare that's leading, it's a stallion that's doing it. It's based on the needs of that herd specific, situational, many times, as to who's going to lead through that, and the dominance thing that just doesn't get engaged unless we're dominating the herd to move them quickly. 1717 is 8-8, and move them out quickly for some reason. However, it's not personal, it's not ego-based, and it's not driven in I'm the man, I'm the woman. It's driven in collaboration, and I'd like you to choose this, and because you trust me, you know me, and you believe me, then you do, and you see that I have proven track record coming through to make that a safe bet, so that even, brand new babies being born in, they understand they're already steeped in that and grown into knowing that, and those that would be introduced to herds, from outside of that, they already understand where they came from. It's either going to be, better or worse for them depending on their ranking, and no matter how many times I've seen the top of the herd behave and the bottom of the herd behave, I can tell you in my experience of observing horses, watching horses, and working with horses that even the bottom ranked, dude on the totem pole is still treated with kindness and respect. They're not treated any differently in terms of kindness and respect, and they're not treated any less harshly. They're not treated any better. They're treated as a herd member, vital and necessary, though their rank structure may be down there that, you're not going to be calling any shots anytime soon there, junior varsity. You're just not, and you're probably not ever going to, based on your personality and what you're able to do. That's probably not you, but there's no shade in that, there's no shame in that, and there's no doo-doo about that. It's just an acknowledgement of we cater to the needs of our herd, and we don't look at any one of them as being lesser than or more than. It's a matter of structure. We operate with a paradigm and a hierarchy, then we answer to that, and whoever's stepping up to that, there's no argument. And when it's established again and again and again as that this is how we do leadership, friend, then everybody observing that, in my opinion, can learn from the horse the horse leadership training program that can happen if we watch that and we understand that. We don't get butthurt that, well, why has a girl got to do it? Why has a dude got to do it? There isn't any of that. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy your day no matter what part of the day you're in, and remember to get within your skin because you're divine. It's very, very, very stallion and mare all of the time, and you have the ability to know and understand what it is that you can do to herd hit with your heart, say things that might be severe, however, moving with your heart no matter what you're doing, and even, dealing with, I've got to snark at this a bit, I've got to nip this a bit, and I've got to stop this and move out quickly and, shove maybe the baby out of the way. It won't understand. However, I need to do that because there's a greater danger that you don't understand, and because I do, I have experience that will work out your butt hurt later. But right now, you need to do this. It never comes, though, as I said, from the head hit. There's no such thing in the horse world unless that's been artificially installed by abuse. So thank you, as I said, get within your skin because you're divine. It's really gorgeous, totally lovely, and absolutely fine. Take care of your beautiful selves 2020, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye, friends.